Hello, everyone. Happy belated 4th of July. Tom and I are here. Jen is actually enjoying herself off on a cruise ship, I believe in the Caribbean. So you're stuck with... Yeah, go ahead.
Just you and I. Yeah.
I was just stuck with the devilishly handsome Tom and Adam. So we're going to go through some of the updates.
Whoa. Time out. Devilishly handsome?
Devilishly handsome. I mean, come on. Look at us, Tom. Look at us.
Okay, I'm willing to run with that. Let's go with that for this week. It's our theme.
But yeah, so we're going to go through some of the updates that have been coming out, look at some of the new things that have been added, as well as some of the stuff that's coming live. There's a lot of cool stuff that's been going on, and I think it kind of is a lull sometimes when you get to the middle of the summer. So we're going to kind of be focusing on some of the stuff that we think is cool, some of the new things out there, and hopefully we'll be getting stuff pretty steadily over the next couple months, because we all know as we get closer to, September, October, November, when we're getting closer to Ignite, they'll kind of start shutting down the updates where we won't be seeing a lot. But luckily, we still have a good amount of stuff to go to, so I'm going to go ahead and toss it over to Tom to talk about some of the new stuff that's been added to the roadmap.
Sounds good. Thanks, Adam. So one of the first things I saw was the Outlook on the web. If you've been out there at all, you've seen that they have a new experience that they could allow you to toggle into if you wanted to see the preview of it. By and large, I thought it worked really well. What I wasn't thrilled about is it didn't seem to have the same options if you looked at options for mail or calendar and stuff like that. Yeah, but a couple things, it's like I really needed that old version of it before I was ready to cut over to the new version. Well, on the 22nd of July, they're going to start rolling out the new Outlook on the Web experience as the default experience for targeted release. Non-targeted starts rolling out on August 3rd, and expected to be done by the end of September. So you're not going to be able to see the opt-in toggle nor be able to opt out to go back to the classic. This, if you're still used to using some of those options that you would see on the classic thing for the web, you're probably going to have to learn to live without them now or use Outlook Client to get to where you need to do. So.
Yeah, some of the things for me, I know oftentimes doing stuff like, the easiest way whenever I was talking to someone from our organization is to change their profile picture was to just have them do it through Outlook and stuff like that. And I believe that feature's still there in the new look, but some of those changes of baseline settings were really easy to do from Outlook, and they're taking some of those away with the new look and feel. I kind of think this is what you're going to start to see is they want Outlook to be mail and Outlook focused, and you're going to see them start to encourage people to do stuff like Delve and some of the places where that stuff actually lives, whereas the old OWA was just kind of settings that actually were changing Delve on the back end. I think you'll see them start to encourage people to go through and do that and let Outlook really just be the mail hub, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think the one that's going to hurt me the most is in the current classic view on the web, there is an option to go out and see the distribution list that you own and that you're part of.
Yeah.
And because of the way we have some of our distribution lists set up, I can only access them via the web for updating them. And unfortunately, in this case, since I will not have that ability to do the show me everything, or at least last I checked, it wasn't out there, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to be able to do those updates. So I think that's going to hurt me a little bit.
Sure, if you know the DL, you'd still be able to go and update it, but you have the view right now where you can just go in and hey, here's the list of everything I'm in. Makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to work on that one. Second thing on my list, bulk approvals in SharePoint Online. So it is one of those situations currently where if you're on SharePoint Online and you have approvals for various list items and stuff like that, you have to do them one at a time. They're going to go ahead and roll out the ability to do bulk approvals so you can do a lot of things at once. That's going to be rolling out to targeted release in early July, and it should be out to everybody by the end of September. So we're not doing enough right now to where I can sit there and say, oh, this will make my life so much easier because we're just migrating at this point. But I'm sure once we get going, if you're doing multiple approvals, that's going to be really nice.
Yeah, no, for sure. I see this as I've had companies that I've worked for before that have been like, okay, well, everything that's going to be purchased needs to go through this one person in the department or something. And then, like, invariably that person is a giant bottleneck to get stuff done.
Right.
I see this going to be nice for stuff like that, is it's like, hey, Dan, we've been waiting for you to approve all the expenses for, Project Diamond for 2 weeks now. Can you go in and do that? And, click on the top one shift, go to the bottom and do it. So
Yep,
I see stuff like that
cool.
as being really nice.
Yeah. Next one on my list is activity highlights in the file hover card. And I think this is going to be kind of cool. So when you hover over a file in SharePoint Online or OneDrive, you see a little pop-up box, or what they call the activity highlights card, or the hover card. And it gives you some basic information about that file. So if it's a Word document, it would show you basically the Word icon, the name of it. Well, now they're adding some additional features to it to where it gives you the inside look, tells you how long it would take to read, kind of tries to give you a little bit of a synopsis.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. So it shows the relevant activities to the files that you're working on. If someone you work with either edits, comments, or mentions you in the file, that will also show up in the hover card and give you a link to jump right to that area. So I think that is going to be really cool, where people don't have to go in and look at stuff necessarily. They can just hover, get a little synopsis, see if they're mentioned anywhere, and then get on with their work.
Yeah,
really cool.
I love the little at-a-glance summaries. Because it goes through and pulls out keywords and stuff like that. And again, don't get me wrong, I'm hoping this is not going to be, oh, I really don't want to read that report, I'll just read the couple of sentences there. But if it's, again, you're in a position where maybe that report's not directly relevant to you, but it still has information about what's going on, the at-a-glance is pretty cool, where you don't have to go in and open everything. It's just, you have a very quick, high-level, estimation from automation, right, of what's actually in there, which I think is just a neat feature.
Yeah, so you should start seeing that if you're in targeted release by the end of July, or in early July, actually. So some of you might be even seeing it right now. And then the rollout should be completed to everybody by the end of August. Next up on my list, it's a new feature. I know we've talked about this before, 360-degree image viewer in SharePoint and OneDrive. So if you have one of these pictures where you can scroll in 360 and you'll see everything like you were standing there and turning around and looking. It used to be that how that would be showed as an image would be kind of like one of those fishbowl views that would try to show you everything around you in a flat format in front of you, which doesn't actually convey exactly what's going on. Well, now if you have an image or a 360-degree photo that has a projection type of equirectangular, that's a brand new word for me, or if you actually tag the photo to end with .360.png or .jpeg, then you'll get that 360-degree view, and you can actually scroll it back and forth within SharePoint and OneDrive without any additional viewers. So this goes back to the thing of, hey, we're trying to give you the ability to look at a lot of different file types without you having to go through and download additional software. It's all native. And that should be out by the end of July.
Yeah, I actually had another OneDrive one that's not quite yet out, but I've actually seen in one of my tenants, and I know it's coming out. I know it's projected to be out by the end of the year. Have you messed around at all with a personal vault that they're rolling out for OneDrive?
No, I have not.
So it's a really cool feature. It's basically the idea that we all have stuff that we go in and we put into our OneDrive, and don't get me wrong, OneDrive's secure, right? You have to have your login, you have to be able to get in. But at the same time, OneDrive's just going to be set up on your phone, or OneDrive's just going to be set up on your computer, and especially if you have that information syncing and going through, essentially that information is just exposed to your computer as well. Well, they're basically coming out with a new section called the Personal Vault, which literally I kind of view it as like a safe inside of my OneDrive. They even actually have a little, if you view it on your mobile app, they actually have a little safe icon that shows
Oh, nice.
But it's basically an additional area inside inside of your OneDrive that's going to require a second step of verification to get in. So if you're doing it on your phone, it may have you actually do like, a fingerprint scan or a Face ID scan or perhaps additional PIN or, like the two-factor type authentication, like conditional access type stuff that you do to get into 365 for some users. So even if just by default username and password gets you into Office 365 and you have OneDrive there and, OneDrive having it, this personal vault is basically going to be a section that in order to get in regardless of where you're accessing from, it's always going to prompt for that second form of authentication. And I actually see this as really cool. The first thing that I really started using OneDrive for was when I started using it at work. I basically used OneDrive as a way for me to try to be more organized. I am one of the least organized people ever. I just don't have my stuff put together. If you ask me, for instance, oh, hey, like, where are the papers for your insurance? Where are the papers for this and that? Well, if I can go and find it online, I might be okay. But, like, actual physical copies that I got, like, who the hell knows? Like, they're probably in a folder somewhere, but where, I don't really know. So one of the first things I started doing with OneDrive was on my own OneDrive, I had a folder, for instance, that said, like, car insurance. And I had the name of my agent, and I had my policy number, and I had when it ran to, and I had numbers that I needed to call and things like that. So, like, if I got into an accident, rather than me being like, oh, man, I don't know where stuff is, I don't know what I can do, I could just pull it up and go there. But at the same time, some of that type of information, be it insurance information or, bank information, whatever it is, I probably don't just want willy-nilly out there. So I eventually stopped doing it in OneDrive because, again, I kind of thought, like, oh, hey, like, if I leave this in the wrong hands, it could be bad. But with the invention of this personal vault, I see that as a really big opportunity in the future. It's pretty cool.
Nice. I like that. So I've got a few Teams ones here. One, which is kind of cool, it's called Atlas Mentions. And so normally when you're in OneDrive, Teams, and you want to get somebody's attention on a message or something, you do @person's name, and then it kind of gives it as a link and notifies them and the whole bit. Well, now it's going to work a little bit more like if you use Facebook, where if you start typing somebody's first name, it pops up a list of any of your friends who have a name that starts with those letters, and then you can just select from there. So this is going to work the same way. You can basically start typing somebody's name. It'll come up with a list of suggestions. You click it. They'll get the notification, and then when they click the link in the notification, it'll go right to the conversation where they were mentioned. This is in development for July of 2019, so I'm assuming that it will probably roll out probably to everybody by the end of, say, August or September.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of cool. Another one that I think is really intriguing, or could be really dangerous, I'm not sure which one yet, Microsoft Teams channel cross-posting. So you could theoretically be in one of your team sites, and you can then go in and send a message to multiple channels, and that can actually be part of the same team that you're in, or it could be in different teams. And any edits that you make to the post, once you put it out there, will also be reflected across all the channels. This is one of those things where it's like, hey, this is really cool. Now if I'm in 5 different teams, I can send everybody a notice that says, hey, I'm going to be out this afternoon. Don't try to get a hold of me. But you could also get the thing of somebody going, hey, I've got Girl Scout cookies over at my desk, and now 14 teams and 500 people now know that you've got cookies at your desk.
I like over to Tom's desk.
Don't I wish I had cookies right now. Samoas, if you want to know. This is one of those things, I think it's going to be a really cool feature from the functionality of it, and from a business perspective, I think it would be really cool. I'm just not sure that there's not going to be some abuse of that with people who start cross-posting to all kinds of things. It would be like cross-posting to a distribution list.
Yeah, like I see this as a potential, if used correctly, to be awesome. But the first thing that jumps out at me whenever I hear this was the whole remember the alert notification, like the come back and pay attention to me notification that they have. Mm-hmm. Like every 2 minutes, like they give like the important beep or whatever it was. Like I see this as all it takes is one person that like doesn't understand proper Teams etiquette to make your life hell with features like this. So
yeah.
as an admin, I feel like the first thing I get when I know this is, oh, well, can I turn this off? Is this something I can disable? So we'll have to see more as it rolls out and we kind of get our hands on it again. I can see the value of it, but the pessimist in me is like you, and this is like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see how that works. Yeah, let's try that. I've got two more quick ones here. Live captioning in Teams meetings. I think this is kind of cool because I know that when I've sat in sessions at Ignite and stuff like that, they've had captioning, live closed captioning, turned on, and invariably it works really, really cool. Well, now they're basically taking that down to live captioning for meetings that you're holding in Teams. The first release will just support English, but I'm sure it'll quickly roll out past that to Spanish and some of the other languages. That's due for August 2019, so I'm assuming worldwide rollout would probably be sometime around September, October.
Yeah.
I like to see what they're doing there.
Anytime I see these, I get really excited to think about where the future is going with this. So as you said, right now it just supports English. But when I see this, I think of, well, it's not a very big step, even if it's only supporting English, and obviously it's pretty easy to extrapolate and say, oh, Spanish and Dutch and French and stuff and German getting added. But I like the idea of being able to go through and do this, and we can start getting into the realm of real-time translation, right? So go through and it can capture what's being said and add in closed captioning to it. All you have to do is go in and leverage the same type of intelligence and automation that you're seeing in stuff like Stream, where it's going to go through and do real-time translation for you into other languages. And you can go in and combine the two, where you could have someone up on a stage speaking in English, and you could have, you know, members of your organization that are in Japan, and that are in Germany, and that are in Romania, and that are in Russia, all watching real-time and getting real-time captions, which is something that right now would literally take, 4 to 8 employees that would be listening in, would be doing the captioning, would be going through and doing that in real time. So really, really excited when I hear stuff like this, when I think about the power of automation and really the power that the cloud will bring to enable some of this. So cool, really cool feature to come out. I'm thinking what's going to be here in 6 months. I think it's awesome to think about.
Yeah, of course, that feature is probably going to put like 200 people out of work at the UN. And the very last one, comments and notifications on NonOffice files, which I think this is really intriguing. So if you have files stored in OneDrive or SharePoint, you're going to have the ability to add comments to the files as part of your review process. Now you can, work with Office documents, photos, PDFs like that, and you can have comments and notifications going on there that keep it all tied together. So again, providing more context to a file, not necessarily just part of the Microsoft ecosystem, but for things outside the ecosystem. I think that's a great feature, and I'm looking forward to seeing that one come out. And that one's in development, and it's got a July 2019 date on it, so probably, again, end of August, into September, you'll probably see that start filtering out to the clients.
Yeah, and you could already do this with, actual Microsoft documents, which we used a lot. Wasn't that uncommon going through in Teams? One person from my group would upload, a Word document, say, hey, can you guys go in there and give me your thoughts? And you could sit there in the chat window and talk about it in real time. The ability to expand this out to other non-Microsoft source stuff, photos and PDFs are cool. I see something like a CAD drawing in there and think about how much more accessible is this going to make as a platform for engineering and architectural firms that's their primary medium that they're working with as far as, deliverable work, and now that can be discussed and dealt with real time in the same way that Microsoft Files. Really, really cool.
Yep. And that's it on my list. If you would like to take over on your side now, Adam, we'll discuss your things.
Yeah, so from our side, and this is a little bit different this week than sometimes what we normally do. Full disclosure, I don't think either Tom or I have problems admitting this. Jen is a large part of the brains behind our operation, so she kind of owns a lot of the actual collaborating and pulling together some of the new updates coming out. So while we still have a ton of great stuff to talk about today, as you can obviously see, Tom and I are going from different sources. So most of what I have today to talk about is actually stuff that is already out there, you should be able to see soon, that I think is really, really cool, that we haven't talked about in updates previously, or is just stuff that I think is, maybe you might not be aware of, that I think is, people need to know. So moving on into stuff that, again, most of this stuff is going to be live in real time. One of my favorite programs out there that I don't think gets the love it really deserves is Cloud App Security. Cloud App Security is basically an additional application that rests inside of the Azure product suite that basically allows you to get a full understanding of all of the different software and services that are running inside of your organization. So when I first used Cloud App Security, I used it to do a couple cool things. Like, I had an organization that the main CTO there was terrified of what he referred to as grandma's computer scenario, where he wanted to open up the services and the platform of Office 365 to his users, but what prevented, Jan from accounting from going home and seeing her grandmother over the holidays, needing to do some work, syncing her OneDrive down to grandma's computer, and now all of those files are on grandma's computer with, like, Lord knows what else that, has gotten on there from someone who, may not be the most computer illiterate. And what if grandma goes in and deletes the files, or what if her computer is compromised with viruses, and just running the risk from there. And the solution that we actually put in place was using Cloud App Security. We basically were able to apply a minimum level of security. So we could go in and say every single file that was uploaded into OneDrive had a minimum baseline level of security applied to it, where when you tried to open up that file, there was a login prompt for their tenant. And so regardless if you had the information pulled down, you basically had to go in and log in, and that token would stay active for a short period of time, but 6 days later, when grandma goes and accidentally tries to access the file, she actually won't be able to get past that prompt. Or if a virus tries to go in, you have the baseline protection built in, and something really cool to do. Well, Cloud App Security actually has gotten a lot of updates, and some of the things you're being able to see with it, I think is really, really cool. One of the most important things that I think is going to be really, really attractive as organizations start to explore some of the bigger purposes is they now actually have abilities where you can go in and discover apps and services that are running on top of your different subscriptions inside of Azure, AWS, or the Google Cloud Platform. So this is really, really cool when you look around some of the VDI and virtual desktop environments that people are going to be using. This is basically going to allow you to go out and automatically scan and catalog what's going on all of your users' machines, so you're aware of what they're doing. And I don't see this necessarily as Big Brother-ish. I see this as, oftentimes for me, I see shadow IT as a failure of the IT staff. Of course, people are going to go out and find services that work for them if you're not providing what's needed. So I see this as a really, really cool way that you can go through and get a understanding of what services are working and what's not, and what gaps you still potentially have to fill. So really, really cool to see stuff like that going on. They also have stuff like going in and getting an understanding of, with conditional access policies, how resources themselves are accessed and how frequently. So going through and whole different SKU of of Office products using conditional access policies in conjunction with Cloud App Security to get an understanding of, well, how often are people, accessing their mail? Are they doing it from home? Are they doing it on the fly? What type of devices they're doing? Much, much better reporting on some of that stuff, which is going to be really, really cool to see. And the final thing related to Cloud App Security that I thought was really, really cool is they're actually going to go through and do improvements around your organization's identity security with a new thing they're calling Identity Secure Score. You've probably heard my nerdy self talk about Secure Score multiple times. There's a version that exists in 365 that I'm sure Tom's had to already look at. There's a version that exists in Azure, and now there's a new version coming out for Identity Secure Score. And this is basically the health and overall standing of all of your users, of all of your groups, of all of your devices, and recommendations of how you can go through and improve it in the same way that you see in Office 365. I think eventually there's just going to be like a Microsoft Secure Score that has all of this stuff, but I am always a huge fan and proponent of this for two reasons. One, a lot of times the higher-ups above you maybe don't understand all the technical details of what you do in your job, and how successful you're going to be in getting that across is going to be a mixed bag, oftentimes due to factors you can't control. But what everyone above you can understand is, we are at this numerical score, I did some work and we're now at this higher numerical score, and oh, by the way, everyone on average is at this low score, look at how great I am. And so it's one of those things that I always encourage my clients to use. If you can go in and say, oh, well, when I started we were a 44, the average organization of our type is a 52, and now we're a 97, that linear progression is something very, very easy to track. It's a good way to give yourself kudos, to show progress in your work, and to hopefully be rewarded for the progress in your work. And so I'm always a huge fan of new stuff like this. And I also think I'd say built in a honey-do list of things you can do to make your organization more secure, which is just cool.
Yep. That's all great stuff, Adam. I'm glad you covered it.
There's a couple other things that I thought was cool. We'll hit some of these really, really quickly. We talked about this briefly, and this is something I know you actually do care about, Tom. The idea of information barriers in teams. I don't know how much you've explored it, but Microsoft has basically added a new feature that you can limit the disclosure of information by restricting communications between groups of users with teams as barriers. And I'm really torn on this. This is something that I've seen discussed a lot on social media platforms among some of the people that I'm friends with that I see at conferences and things like that. And I can't really decide if I think, yeah, this is good, or it's a niche thing, or no, this is going to be abused. So as a whole, how do you kind of feel about the idea that you're now going to be able to literally resurrect somewhat physical walls inside of your own organization to box in information from other people? So
I know and I'm probably going to show my ignorance here in the fact I don't know, but in financial firms, you seem to have what they sometimes call the Chinese wall between, say, your investment group and your banking group, because you don't want the banking group giving information that affects the investment group, and insider information, all those kind of things. So I think something like this is ideal for allowing you to have that kind of separation and enforce the fact that we don't want, Bob from mergers and acquisitions and Sally from trading to be able to talk to each other because they could be passing information that would be insider trading.
Yeah.
On a regular corporate basis, just on a day-to-day type thing, I don't know that something like that is as important. Maybe you're going to be merging with another company and you've gotten some, back and forth with them to begin with, but you really don't want the employees of the two companies interacting with each other yet until the merger is done. Maybe that's something where you need to be able to say these two groups can't communicate, but in a case like that, maybe you're going, well, fine, then just don't let the two communicate, right? Then. Yeah.
I'm
it's
like you. I think the niche environment makes sense, right? Like the perfect example you said, sometimes there are legal reasons why certain people can't talk to other people. Or maybe it's, okay, well, I can't have the people that are in my service department that are going through and doing that, talking with the people that are responsible for some sort of organization or sales or management or something like that. I've seen that with organizations too. But outside of those cases where there's a legal reason you want to separate them, I see this as something that's going to be deployed incorrectly and just cause problems.
Yeah.
So
I don't want anybody to see my site, so I want you to lock them out of it. No, it's at a company-wide. No, you need to lock them out. It doesn't work that way. Sorry.
The final thing that I saw, and this has been something that I have used as a crutch for a while, but I like to see it coming as a new default thing to PowerPoint. They basically announced using Designer, you can create custom company templates inside of PowerPoint that you can then share out with people inside of your organization. So I am a technical person. I'm not a creative person. If I go through and create a PowerPoint, it's probably going to be a white background, which is information and be kind of boring. So being able to go through and get this pretty well put together, template that marketing has put together that has multiple slides that I can use, stuff like that always helps me out. That's been done in a corporate environment for a while, but you typically have to create that template and put it, if you want a template, go out and find this here. Now it's being where once you create those and you put it in the cloud, it can literally be an option in the cloud that your users will see when they go through and do stuff as they're in your organization. I think it's really cool for the nerds like me that are not creative types. Really looking forward to something like that.
Well, yeah, and I think that really helps because invariably what happens, and this happens with like logos and everything else, you've got the site that has the logos, this is the official authoritative site, so be it. And then somebody says, but I need my own copy, so they copy it over, and pretty soon they're pulling from the copied site, and 4 other people who copied from that copied site have copied their own version.
Then you update a new logo, then you have
And it was like, well, how come it didn't update everywhere else? Yeah. Because you used it for multiple places. If you can create a new PowerPoint theme for a corporate deck and then load it to where that automatically becomes available to all people using PowerPoint. You don't have to
require on them to go out and get it. It's just there for them, which is awesome.
I mean, they may still go out and say, hey, I've got a PowerPoint that uses that same type of thing. I'll just copy from that and update it. You can't stop that. But to make it a little bit more available as a theme that you can choose from, rather than you have to go try to find the site where it might be stored, is always going to be a better thing.
Cool. Well, that's all from my side, guys. We will be back next week with more updates. I believe Jen will be back and joining us as well, too, so we'll be back to full strength, which will be great. Hopefully everyone enjoyed their holidays off and everyone's kind of kicking it in the summer. I know for me it's very easy to get lost. I don't have kids, so for me the summer is just kind of like a normal other day. But when I talk to my colleagues that have kids, it's very easy to get lost in every other thing going on right now. So hopefully you guys are making it okay and you're trucking along. Hopefully we can keep you up to date with the new updates and the new things coming out so that way you don't have to spend too much time digging for it on your own. But yeah, it's been good.
So I do have one question, though.
Yeah.
When Jen comes back next week, does that mean we are no longer devilishly handsome?
We're always devilishly handsome, but we might be less vocal about the fact that we're devilishly handsome.
That could probably be a smart thing on our part.
I mean, Jen's carrying the beauty for our group most of the time. So, like, we kind of have to step it up. That's why you see, like, the beauty that's going on in front of you. So when Jen's here, we can relax a little bit, but we'll just be less vocal about it, Tom.
So she's got the beauty and the brains. We're just the eye candy in those things, right?
Yeah, I mean, makes sense, right? All right, guys. Have
I think
a great
we better
week.
Stop at that one. Bye, everyone.
We'll talk to y'all soon.